you will learn how to work with graphic symbols and add lip syncing to your character. Hi! In order to animate your drawings in Animate CC, you will have to convert your art into symbols. In this tutorial, we will discuss working with graphic symbols because there are lots of cool things you can do with them. Let's take a look at this scene. This scene contains a background, the classroom, a body, the head, several different mouth expressions for later use, and a layer where we will drop the audio in. The head layer has got several groups, from where the head is built up from. If you want the character to blink with his eyes every now and then, we would need a graphic symbol. I always like to think of an intelligence group when I'm explaining graphic symbols. It's kind of a group, but it contains its own timeline within this so-called symbol. An easy way to select everything within a layer is to select the keyframe in that particular layer. When all is selected, convert it to a symbol with a right mouse click on the selection. Choose Convert to Symbol. Give it a name which makes sense in the pop-up panel and select Graphic from the drop-down list. Hit OK. Double-click on the head to open the just made symbol. Please note the structure in the top of the interface. This area shows you that you find yourself in that particular symbol. It's easy to go back to the higher level with a single click on Scene 1, or double-click outside of the drawing of the head. Open the symbols again with a double-click and notice that this symbol has got its own timeline. Select all the objects on the stage. Right-click and choose Distribute to Layers. Name every layer correctly to keep things organized. Delete every layer that appears to be empty. Make a selection at 2 seconds to create a new frame. In both of the eye layers, you will create a keyframe at frame 55. Delete its content. In both layers you can draw a line to give the head a closed eyelid. Now play the animation with the looping option enabled to see the blinking in action. Go back to scene 1 with a double click somewhere on the stage, and so you are back in the original timeline. The beauty of a graphic symbol is that by default the blinking of the eyes will loop. There are also other options available in the properties of a graphic symbol. We will see a bit more of that in the next video. This is video 2 in a series of 3 where we are discussing graphic symbols and lip syncing. In video 1 you've been working on these eyes and already learned a lot about graphic symbols. The character's eyes should be blinking like this in the original scene 1 timeline. Well, there's a lot more that you can do with graphic symbols. You will learn how to show frames from the other timeline onto the main timeline in this tutorial. Let's make him smile at frame number 10. In the second layer, the mouth layer, you will see there's a collection of mouths on the right hand side of the stage. These were already converted to one graphic symbol. Open the symbol with a double click. For lip syncing, we need to make use of a variety of mouth expressions, and I have added a little legenda to explain which mouth is which expression. I want to create a little animation for it by placing all the mouths in one same location. I will do that by selecting them all with the selection tool. Use the Align panel, which you can open from Window, Align, to center them horizontally and vertically. Then drag the mouse to the left and place the selection where the mouth should be on the character. Select Distribute by Keyframe to drop every mouth in a separate keyframe. You can do this with a right click. Please note that it will drop every mouth in a new keyframe, which will end up with an empty first keyframe. Select the empty keyframe with a right click to delete that particular empty keyframe. If you play the animation, you will see that the character talks with quite some speed. Double-click outside the character to go to the main Scene 1 timeline. In here, the character will talk rapidly as well, and it's looping the animation. And that's rather cool, but this is not what I intend to achieve. Select the mouth and take a look at the properties. Turn off the loop option by selecting single frame and select frame number 14 as first frame. Now the character will stay silent for the length of the whole animation. I want to make him smile at frame number 10. So go to frame number 10 and create a keyframe with the Insert Keyframe button. Select the mouth on the stage and open the Use Frame Picker option in the Properties on the right hand side of the screen. From this panel I will choose frame number 13 to make him smile. It's a good idea to turn on the Pin Current Symbol option. This option will keep the symbol active in the Frame Picker panel. When you're working with more graphic symbols in combination with your Frame Picker, then it's helpful to launch a new Frame Picker panel with this button on the right top corner of this panel. This Frame Picker is a really great feature to use in your animations. And now I think we are ready for the lip syncing feature. In the third and final video, we will add audio and lip syncing to the file we've been working on in the previous two tutorials. Let's import the audio file. Because we won't see the audio on the stage, I'm importing it directly into the library. This gives me control on which layer and in which keyframe the audio will be placed. When we take a look at the library panel, we will see the audio file. I want the character to start talking in frame 15. So we need to have a keyframe at that moment in time in the audio layer. Create a keyframe with the Insert Keyframe button. With this keyframe selected, we can drag the audio file from the library onto the stage. The waveform in the layer panel shows us that the audio file was placed correctly. It's always a good idea to have a separate layer for the audio to keep things clean. Now play the animation from frame 1 and listen to the audio. Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm really, this sounds amazing. It's starting to come together. But what happens when we stop the animation at frame 30 and hit play again? Then we hear the sound of silence. And that's not something we can work with at all. We want to have full control of the audio at all times in this animation. Select the audio in the audio layer again to get the properties. You will see the audio sync option. At this moment the audio waits for an event to start playing. And this event can be a click action or the moment in time where we play the animation and it passes this particular keyframe. And that's the situation right now. But if you want to hear the audio every single time, no matter where we are in the timeline, then we need the option Stream. Let's check if that works. Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm really, no, and yes it does. Only it's not long enough. Create frames for all layers until frame number 235. That's where the text comes to an end in this case. Now let us start the lip syncing process. Create a keyframe in frame 15 in the mouse layer. Open the graphic symbol on the stage with a double click. To keep things organized, it's best to name the keyframes. It's best to label each mouth position so we can easily work with it with all the positions in the lip syncing process later on. It's also a good idea to use frame labels when you're using the frame picker. The first mouth position is Surprised. Select the first keyframe in the layer named Labels. Go to the properties for that particular keyframe. And in the label area, you are able to give it a name. Type Surprised. In this case, I don't see the legenda anymore, and I think it's very useful, so I'm gonna make a frame in frame number 14 to keep the legenda visible. In frame number 2, we will need to create a keyframe and label it with number 3 with woo, and I think you get the idea. Make sure you name them all correctly. When you're done, we don't need the legenda anymore. Please delete that layer. Go back to scene 1 in the main timeline. Set the playhead to frame 15 and select the mouth on the stage again. And that way you will get the object properties of the mouse symbol on the right hand side of the screen. Click on the lip syncing button in the properties. Select the neutral mouth and then select the corresponding mouth from the pop-up panel. Do the same for A, D, E, L, M, O, R, S, and woo! Make sure that Adobe Animate uses the correct layer, the layer that contains the audio, in order to let it create keyframes for the different mouth positions. Hit done and let Adobe Animate CC calculate the mouth positions. Now play the animation and see what it does. Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm really enthusiastic about working with Adobe Animate CC. So this is how you can use graphic symbols, make use of the frame picker and lip syncing, and create a beautiful lip syncing animation. Enjoy working with Adobe Animate CC. You will learn how to create an animated short commercial. This commercial will be set up as a squared animation, which is ideal for use on Instagram. This Adobe Animate CC tutorial actually starts in Adobe Photoshop CC. In here I've created a little character to promote a Science Museum's robots exhibition. As you'll notice, the robot has been built up in layers. I've even put in a group of layers that will form the mouth. This will give the illusion that the LED lights in there are actually blinking. Let's check the names again of the layers. These names will show in Animate CC as well, so it's advisable to give these layers a logical name. Layer 1 needs to be wheel in this case. All these layers need to be imported in Animate CC as animate layers. So let's go to Animate CC. From the welcome screen you can choose from a lot of handy presets. But for this character animation we want to have a squared aspect ratio like 1080 width and 1080 height. We will want to link all these layers together in order to move the complete character quite easily. For that reason, we'll leave the default ActionScript 3.0 as it is. By selecting Create, the welcome screen will disappear and the interface of Animate CC will build up. The most important things for now in the interface are the stage and the timeline. We want to see our character on the stage and all the layers in the timeline below. Now go to File and Import to Stage to place the Photoshop layers directly onto your stage. This will give you a window with lots of information about your layers. But the most important thing is that you'll need to check if the layers will be imported as animated layers. The group of the mouth layers can be converted to a movie clip symbol, which will make the mouth layers easy to animate later on. You've now learned how to build up your character in Photoshop and how to import those layers in a new Adobe Animate CC file. In this tutorial we are going to discuss motion tween and graphic symbols in order to make our little robot move. So at first I would like to select my body and move it off stage. When we clip everything that's outside of the stage, our content, this is what finally will end up in our export at the end. So it's always good to have a little clean look at what your product is going to look like. Of course, I want to see my robot in order to make it move, and I want to make use of the right click motion tween option. And the motion tween will need our object to be a symbol. So I need to convert it at first into a symbol. So I'm going to go for modify, convert to symbol, and give it a name, body for instance, and I'm going to leave it as a graphic symbol. And now what I need to do is right click and create a motion tween, and that will give us 1 second of time to animate. And of course I can extend this to 2 seconds if I want to. Immediately you will see that the only layer that has got 2 seconds of time is the body layer. So I want to see everything else as well. So I'm going to select the final frames over here underneath frame number 60. I'll right click and just insert a frame. And that will keep everything visible until the end of the animation. The next thing that I would like to do is make sure that my robot makes an entrance. So I'm going to select my robot at frame number 20. Move it onto the stage. There we go. And this is our first animation. Now probably it will need to lean forward a bit to anticipate on the motion. So what I could do is rotate our robot a little bit, but that makes it rotate from the center of the whole selection. I want to make it rotate right over here where it connects to the wheel. So what I could do is select the free transform tool, select the body, and just move the white dot over here where it's connecting to the wheel. And now this is gonna be the rotation. Looks much better. And when it comes to a stop, it needs to move backwards, forward again a bit, something like this. And while I'm doing this, it will make all these keyframes for my little robot. Probably it's a little bit too slow, so what I could do is just select all these keyframes over here, move them towards frame number 10, 11. When you've converted an object to a symbol, they will live in your library over here. So everything is already converted in here. So I want to make a motion tween of the head as well. Let's right click, create motion tween. That will give me the same orange bar as well. And of course I will need to rotate the head a bit. But in this case the rotation point is also on the wrong spot. So let's alter that in frame number 1. Something like this. Of course I would like to rotate the wheel as well. Let's select the wheel, which is already a symbol, a graphic symbol. When you double click on it, it will open up the wheel. So I'm not in scene 1 anymore, but in an underlying timeline. Let's convert this to a symbol as well, because I want to make it rotate. Let's add a motion tween in there. Let's select the motion tween, search for the properties, and let's say, well, it needs to rotate about 2 times clockwise in the amount of 1 second. And we can already see that there's another extra keyframe. Let's go back to scene 1 and see if that works. Only it keeps on spinning in the end. Of course, when it comes to a stop, it will need to stop. So let's select it over here. Make another keyframe by hand with the right click. Insert keyframe. And because of the fact that this is a graphic symbol, we can say, well, I don't want it to loop anymore in the properties. I want it to play a single frame. And it already selects frame number 13. Because that's the position where we are at the moment, and that will make sure that it will stop. So this is how you work with motion tween and combining it with graphic symbols. In this tutorial we are going to discuss the Asset Warp tool. This is a new tool and it's a fantastic tool to deform your bitmap graphics and your vector graphics. The one thing that you aren't allowed to do is deform symbols. So in this case the right arm of the robot was turned into a symbol, a graphic symbol. I don't want it to be a symbol anymore, so I go to modify and break apart to make sure that it's a bitmap again. And of course it does the same thing when you are working with your vector graphics. Just don't use symbols. So now what I can do is select the Asset Warp tool, select the area where the hand should be of a robot, and immediately shows you the mesh of the arm. I can select the elbow area and the shoulder part. And now when I'm selecting the hand, it allows me to deform the arm. When I don't want to see the mesh, just disable show mesh, and now it shows me what it looks like without the mesh. And when I'm gonna start this animation, it needs to be somewhere over here, I think, to make it a bit more dynamic. Now when I want to let it come to a stop, the hand needs to swing behind its back a bit more, so I will need to create a keyframe. So this trick doesn't work with a motion tween. We'll need to make keyframes by hand and use the classic tween instead. So let's right click on the location where we want to stop, insert a keyframe. Let's swing this one behind its back, this one as well. Of course there's no animation in there, it's more of a stop motion right now. But when I add the classic tween with a right click in the middle of those 2 keyframes, classic tween. It will do the trick. There we go. And probably it's starting a bit too soon with moving behind his back. So maybe it's better to make sure that his hand is a bit more off. Let's right click, insert the keyframe. And let it sit there a bit more. There we go. Another keyframe. Right click, insert keyframe. Make sure that there is another classic tween in the middle. And let's move it back again. And of course we can do the same thing with the other arm as well. Let's speed things up in the recording. And that's how you can work with the Asset Warp tool. Pretty cool. And like I said, it also works on vector graphics. So artwork made in Illustrator or Animate itself will work perfectly with the Asset Warp tool. Our video is almost done. Let's get ready to export out our video in the next tutorial.